Just stay in it. Just stick with it. Just keep pressing through. And life will continue to present you with opportunities to dive deeper within yourself. And I feel that that is really the root of the spiritual practice.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my show. Today, on today's episode, we have today we have Mr. Andrew Sealy. Andrew is a connection catalyst. He hosts yoga retreats and teacher trainings all over the world. He's a conscious entrepreneur, and he works one-on-one with celebrities and highly influential people, and also one of the most kindest and authentic people that I've ever met in my life, and he's one of my best friends. So, Andrew, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, brother.
Yes, indeed. Such a blessing to be here on your podcast, to have the opportunity to sit down and see eye to eye and feel heart to heart.
Yeah, man. I feel like all of our conversations are always worthy of being recorded, and we go to some really interesting places whenever we chat, and we always find ourselves at some really deep meaningful conversations. So I trust and know that this conversation is going to be no different. And before I invited you on, I was like, what do I want to talk to Andrew about? Because you are a wealth of knowledge, and you're a wealth of wisdom through your experience. You've been all over the world. You've traveled to more places than I can even count, and you've worked with some really incredible people and on some really incredible projects. So I thought to myself, what really defines Andrew? Like, what is his essence, and like, what is it about him that allows him to live such an incredible life? And I think I've come to the conclusion that it's your spiritual practice, like who you are, like you, everywhere you go, you really embody this energy, this equanimity with your emotions and how you show up, and this kindness and love and compassion, and you really embody the things that you teach and you talk about. So I want to talk to you about spirituality.
I feel like it's the most important subject of our lifetime, spirituality. And I feel really that it's something that I have been rooted in since I was a young child, just like really diving deep into the awareness of who we are and what we're here for. And I feel that that is spirituality. That is the true study of life and all of its counterparts, is the awareness that we all have a spirit, that everything is spirit, and that connection is entwined into how we live our life and how we go about our day-to-day practice.
I love that. Yeah, I think that spirituality as a whole can leave people feeling a little bit contracted. Like the moment somebody describes somebody else as spiritual, or maybe describes themselves as spiritual, there can be this certain judgment or association with the word. So I would love to talk about that. I mean, in your experience, how has being labeled as a spiritual person online with hundreds of thousands of followers, how has that impacted or influenced how you approach those conversations?
Yeah, a lot of people oftentimes ask me, like, what does it mean to be spiritual?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, like, spirituality? And it's something that I don't rarely like mention, because it's oftentimes just like, it's like the unspoken, it's like you don't even have to say it, you know, it's like the practice of spirituality is part of the daily practice of honoring thyself. And if you realize that, everything is spirit, even if we look into the scientific awareness of how spirit is now being proven, like my little sister is actually working on a project in MIT with the study of spirituality, like actually like being able to scientifically prove spirituality. And, you know, there's a lot of really incredible doctors who are literally taking research and, you know, checking out the Higgs boson and all these different, you know, ways to be able to prove that the particle and the wave are actually being expressed as different things, but are the same thing. And when we really realize that, you know, if we're talking about our spirit, right, there's a number of different particles that are emanating from your being that are showing up as the physical Nimai. But the physical Nimai is only one aspect of the Nimai that we're able to see. Your essence, your aura, the energetic body, expression of your being is being projected far beyond what we can see. You know, what I'm seeing right now is only about 0.01 of the percent of the visible light. So like this is just to scratch the surface of what we are observing as physical, right? Far beyond the physical realm is the spiritual realm. And I feel that when we really tap into that intuition and we really tap into that daily practice and we really tap into that study of self, that's when we realize that the study of the spiritual is really the study of all that is, far beyond what we can see.
Yeah, I think that concept of like the connectedness of everything is the root of like what spirituality is recognizing that you are a part of something greater than yourself. And this physical vessel that we are using to, you know, operate in this physical world is the interface between the physical and the non-physical. And when we learn how to attune ourselves to going inward and really getting into the essence of who we are, not what we do for money or the, you know, the day-to-day mundane activities that we do, but like who we are at our core, and how that is connected to a greater spirit that connects us all.
Yeah.
Right. It's what allows us to have that such like deep connection, is because at the end of the day, once you strip away all of those things, you're like, wow, you're no different than I am.
Exactly.
Right.
We are the same spirit.
Yes.
We all are the same spirit. And I feel that the real beauty of becoming aware of spirituality is seeing the reflection in another. And then through seeing that reflection in another, you realize that we're all really part of the same thing. We're all literally a huge ball of spirit. And that spirit is working symbiotically together in a way that allows us to experience the differentiation, simply to bring us back to that wholeness of, oh, wow, we are all the same. And I feel that in our observance of that is what allows us to be able to strip into that space of like, we're not our clothes. We're not the physical muscle body. We're not, you know, just our organs. We're not just our eyes. We are literally the deep sense of bliss that resides within. And I think that in that space, you know, whether it's through your daily practice of meditation, whether it's through, you know, working out and pushing weight and, you know, getting to that point where you're feeling beyond yourself, power beyond yourself, that is when you truly tap into the spiritual realm.
Yeah, I love that. So how do you take that, and then what do you do with that? Like, how do you use that information to then operate in the world? Like, do you use it for and coming from a place of kindness and compassion and sense of being of service to the world, rather than being maybe selfish in the sense of like only caring about one's self? Like, how do you take that information and use that for your own life?
Well, I think that kind of stems back to really becoming aware that it is a practice. You know, every single day that we wake up, we are offered with a bright new perspective on life. And in our practice of spirituality, it's seeing that first we serve ourselves so that our cup can overflow, and then we have the opportunity to serve others. And being of service is really the meaning of life. That's what we're here for. We're stewards onto this earth first, and then stewards onto each other. And so really seeing how we can be of service to this world is where we find our gifts. And, you know, for some of us, it's helping to guide yoga classes. For some of us, it's helping to cook incredible vegan food. For some of us, you know, the passion may be sharing incredible stories. Whatever it is that exudes from your heart is your truest heart's intention. It's your dharma. And then when you connect to that dharma, that's what gives you the opportunity to bring forth that karma yoga on a daily basis, which is just giving of yourself from that truth of knowing that when you give, the only thing that can come back is what you receive. It's the beauty of the exchange of the universe. That's all we're here to do, is to give and receive, right? And so if we really tune into what it is that we're giving and give it with our full heart's intention, then the energetic awareness that we receive back is the universe saying, yes, you're in alignment. Yes, this is why we're excited about what you're doing, and why, you know, you're getting new clients, and why, you know, you're getting paid the abundance that you need to be able to continue to share your gift. And I feel that that in itself is the beauty of universal law. It's the beauty of really tapping into that spiritual awareness that you have faith within yourself and you have faith within the universe, and thus the universe provides.
I love that, man. I love that's such a beautiful way to articulate that, because it's true. Whenever you like discover who you are by really going inward and asking yourself these questions and getting curious about the things that come up and what excites you and what inspires you, then if you really operated from that place, then you can't ever be anywhere else than where you were meant to be, because you're going to attract the right people, you're going to attract the right opportunities, you're going to attract the right circumstances that are aligned with that authentic expression of who you are at your core, not the facade or the person that you're pretending to be, and then internally you're really dissatisfied, or there's dis-ease, meaning that there's misalignment of what you're doing, or unhappiness, or depression, or things that lead to like a chronic state of unhappiness, which can be labeled as depression. Right? It's like it depends on like how aligned are you living with your authentic truth, and you have to discover that. I feel like nobody's going to tell it for you. Nobody's going to tell you what your truth is. That's the problem, is that most of us are told what we should or shouldn't be doing, and how we should or shouldn't be behaving. And that kind of at an early age will influence us to believe those things. Maybe they were with good intentions, but they were not aligned with who we are at our core. And I think that's kind of the beauty of like the human experience, is like going through that phase and then asking yourself those questions and say, is this who I am? Is this who I want to be? Is this what I want to do in this lifetime?
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people have that experience of literally growing up being taught or being told that they are something that they are not. And then having to rediscover that true light that helps them to shine, the true, you know, fire that helps them to really feel that passion and that desire to wish to serve and to wish to share and to have the real inspiration to create. And I feel that that creation is literally that heartfelt awareness that brings us into create our art, that brings us into that space of really sharing our passion, that creating our masterpiece. And that's really what life is it's like, you know, you have this beautiful block of marble, and every single day you're just chipping away at it, you know, really creating your masterpiece. And your masterpiece is going to be completely unique to your own heartfelt intention, your own expression, all of your experiences from the past that bring you into this present to create that which is your future.
I love that. Yeah, you know, as I've gotten older, I've like really tried to shift out of the victimhood mentality of like, why is this happening to me, to like trying to look around my life and saying, oh, this is all happening for me. And even taking it one step further to have the perspective of I chose this, like even going before I was ever born, like looking at like before I ever entered this physical body, to look at like even my parents, my two perfect teachers, like my soul knew that my two parents were going to be the two perfect teachers for me to learn the lessons that I needed to learn in this lifetime. And that can mean that they gave me the love that they could give me, and then the things that they couldn't give me then created the desire for me to seek out those things, or for me to reconcile the things that I wasn't given or wasn't taught as a child, so that I could grow up to be the person that I am today. So I don't look at anything that happened in my lifetime as anything but an experience for me to benefit from. And having that perspective and looking at like what we were just talking about, like being told to behave or be a certain way, all of those things are merely opportunities for us to learn about ourselves and to transmute that experience into refining who we are and how we want to show up.
Exactly what you said, refining how we wish to show up, I feel is the spiritual practice, because that's all we're doing is we're literally just shedding off sheaths of conditioning of who we are not, and in the yogic practice, there's a practice neti, I am not my eyes, I am not my ears, I am not my nose, I am not these senses, right? Beyond the senses is the true essence of the being. And the true essence of the being is the observer who begins seeing the universal law, right? Of how it's all coming together perfectly, right? That we chose our parents, that we chose to be here having this conversation right here, that the listeners chose to be listening to this conversation right here, right now. And essentially, I feel that deep reverence for the presence of being is what allows us to truly see the beauty of it all, the simplicity of the universe. And honestly, like, when people are like, oh, like, what about politics? Like, how do you feel about this president? It's like, I can't control everything, right? We oftentimes like grasp onto, this sense of control. I want to be in control. I want to have the power to change this. And it's like, all you can do is change yourself. It's the only thing that we can truly change is ourselves. And how we are able to be proactive rather than reactive to the environment around us. And so, like, putting yourself in a place where you can be in that space of being able to be proactive and positively affecting your environment rather than being negatively affected by the environment that perhaps you cannot change.
Yeah, it's like asking yourself that question, like, as something challenging is happening or as you're going through it, like, first, like for me at least, is remembering that I manifested this. Like, if I'm experiencing it, I chose it, and to not be angry about it happening, to just allow it to happen and allow it to be as is and not resist it or push against it, but then to have the perspective of learning from it or seeing that there is some silver lining, and not in a hyper like bypassing like spiritually bypassing an experience, but really just knowing that on the other side of it, this experience is going to form me into a deeper understanding of myself.
Yeah, definitely.
So having that attitude, I feel like is cultivated from continuously having like a practice to rely on, or to nurture every single day and cultivate this like spiritual practice of connecting with myself and remembering that and who I am, and discovering what's present for me in today versus yesterday or the day before. So for me, that looks like waking up early. It looks like me going outside into my backyard and putting my feet on the ground, to sitting outside in nature. And even if my meditation practice isn't perfect, I'll meditate or just be still and observe either my thoughts or maybe observe what I'm experiencing from like my five senses. And what that does is it brings me into the present moment. It allows me to not think about things that I have to do for the day, and just really tap into what's present for me today.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I'll have like healthy breakfast, I'll do movement, and all of those things I feel like really keep my physical vessel clear of any like interference or like stress, or obviously keeps my vessel healthy as well, because I feel like many of us are operating with a vessel that is not operating at its potential or its peak, and we're dealing with chronic digestive issues, chronic levels of stress, depression, anxiety, all of these things, that inflammation, all these things that really like deter us from being present, because our awareness is being sucked away to the pain or the experience of living in this body.
So healing.
It's constantly using resources, energy, and attention to take you away from the present moment. So it's, how can I really first fill up my cup, like you said, and then have the most ability to show up presently with whatever it is that I'm doing. So what does that look like for you? And what is your spiritual practices, whether they're more traditional or more nuanced and modern?
Yeah, I would say before I dive deep into my spiritual practice, I want to first start by saying that it's okay to have injuries. It's okay to have, things that are, not in balance in your body. It's okay to have, digestive problems. It's completely okay, because a lot of us have been raised with the conditioning that, drinking a cup of milk every single morning is the right thing to do, or that, as soon as you're done working out, you should definitely take your, whey protein. It's like a lot of what we have grown up with has been indoctrinated into our beings as truth. And a lot of what we're doing now is finding out our own truths. And I feel that through that process of discovering your own truth, we become aware of the practices that are best for us. And the practices that are best for me may be completely different than the practices that are best for you. Yet and still, we all have a practice that helps to bring us back to our inherent knowing ourself, knowing our spirit, knowing that deep connection of who we are and what we're here to do. And so for me, I grew up in a very unique family. I have Rastafarian parents from Barbados, had dreadlocks down to my back till I was 18 years old, and grew up playing soccer. And the first, before I even touched any alcohol, the first thing that I did was actually smoked a joint with my mom, and this is at the age of 14. For a lot of people, they didn't have an experience like that. So I find that, everyone's experience of life is different. Everyone's upbringing is different, and everyone's perspective of a daily practice is different. And so my daily practice came from yoga. And at the time when I was, at college, I was studying microbiology. I was playing competitive soccer. I was in a fraternity, binge drinking every single weekend, blacking out, then waking up and studying and having to go to, early classes and having a part-time job to pay for school. So my life was very hectic. And I had a great friend of mine who realized that during this ankle injury that I had, I was sitting on the bench. She was like, you should come with me to Bikram yoga. Bikram yoga has totally saved my joints. She was a tennis player. She was like, come with me to Bikram yoga. If you don't like it, you never have to come back. Bikram yoga is hot yoga, 105 degrees, 90% humidity. You're in there just literally sweating the whole time. I got late to the class, so they put me right underneath the heater. So I'm literally underneath the heater. Exactly. In the corner
spot. The perfect spot for you. In your case. Yeah.
Exactly. Everything is just as it's meant to be. And I'm sitting there sweating, looking at myself in the mirror, completely confronted with just that space of feeling that I had dishonored myself. I had gotten to the point where I was injured. I, barely showed up to this class on time, and I could just smell the alcohol just oozing out of my pores, and it was just I felt like I could do better, and it was at that time when I was looking at myself in the mirror, I can do better, that I really began to tap into what I would say was the first step of my spiritual practice, which was really just being okay with where I was and just accepting myself for being there and showing up. And that's what the teacher said in the yoga class. He was like, no matter where you are, as long as you're breathing, you're doing it right. Just stay in the class, stay in this class, don't leave the class. And, you're sitting there, you're sweating, if you need to take child's pose, take child's pose, just stay in the class. And that's really life. Just stay in it. Just stick with it. Just keep pressing through. And life will continue to present you with opportunities to dive deeper within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that that is really the root of the spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you know, you begin to find things that actually do help to chisel away that marble a little bit quicker, and then help to, you know, polish that marble a little bit quicker. And then those practices are the things that you're like, okay, wow, get up at 6 a.m. before anyone's up, or maybe it's 5:30, or maybe if it's even 4:30, you know, beginning on how refined you are in your practice. And you start to tap into that space, and that space becomes even more clear. And then you're able to tap into it even more quickly. And then the more quickly you're able to tap in, the deeper that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that the more that you spend that time in that space of clarity and that space of unbound potential, that's when the ideas flow through even more simply during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no disruption.
Mm-hmm.
There's no static. The frequency is clear. And so your vessel becomes clear, right? We start with the physical form, the physical body. This is the first layer. And then from the physical body, we dive deeper into the mind. And then from the mind, we dive deeper into that which is the soul. And the soul is what's connected with the spirit. That's the cord that connects us to that which is the universal spirit that connects us all.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we tune in even more, that frequency becomes even more clear. And then it's really just source speaking through us.
I love that. Yeah. You know what's interesting is that some of my most, like my best ideas, or when I feel the most inspired, come in interesting times. Like they don't come in a brainstorming meeting with my coworkers or my employees, like thinking about like, okay, what do we do? Where there's a solution here, where do we find it? Some of my like best ideas come like whenever I'm outside in a hike, like just moving my body and completely undistracted with anything, but just in the present moment of like going through some like physical intensity, like whether I'm like sweating or like it's a challenge to like do this hike, or if I'm at the gym and I'm like under a few 100 pounds of weight and I can't really think about anything else except for what I'm doing in that moment. And sometimes there will be just a sliver of an idea creep through because I'm like at that moment not distracted, and I feel like I tap into that divine like spiritual intelligence or creativity that's always like available for me, but I'm just pinching myself off from it because I'm too focused on the future or the past, or just not really aligned with myself. So I find that like when I'm skating, like skating at sunset for me is like, that's when I get all my best ideas.
The downloads come through.
Yeah, the downloads come through. It's like, and when I say like download, somebody might not understand what that terminology means, but a download is it's different than an idea. It's more of a like a greater intelligence beyond myself, and it comes through me. And I really feel like that is when I tap into that, like that cord that you're talking about, that universal intelligence. And then using this body, it's like the transmission that comes to me, and then I take that and then use it to create in this physical world. Right? Because really it's fascinating. Actually, I had this, not to change subjects so quickly, but I went to a mushroom ceremony last weekend, and it was a mushroom, sound, meditation, breath work, Reiki, and massage ceremony, and vegan food all in one. Yeah,
it sounds like an epic day.
It was an epic night. Yeah, it was an epic journey to say the least. And it was a very visceral experience. Like my experience with mushrooms is more on like a micro level. Like I haven't really taken like a large dose of them before.
What was your dose?
First, it was I think 3.5 grams.
Yeah,
was the first
heroic dose.
Yeah, and it was very visceral for me, and I expected to see lots of visuals and imagery and stuff like that, but I didn't. It felt very much in my body. And because they were doing sound, the sound experience was incredible. Like it was filling up every single space in the room, and at one point it felt like the sound was like underneath me and like like lifting me. I was like floating on sound. It was really, really beautiful. But in that moment, just because of the correlation with all the instruments in the room, like I had such a deep appreciation for my body and all of the senses that I have, and like my ability to just hear anything, or my ability to feel anything, or my ability to taste or see anything is such a gift. And it's all like done intelligently by my body. I don't have to do anything. It just, my body interprets it. And in that moment, I was able to like transmute all of my feelings into pleasure. Like it all felt good. Like every sensation in my body just felt amazing because I had such a deep appreciation for it. Yeah. And in that moment, I realized that my body is also an instrument. Like it is an instrument here to create. And when I use it, and when my instrument is tuned properly, I can create whatever I want. And I can create the most beautiful of businesses, of services, of relationships, of art, of anything. And it was just such a beautiful, like, I don't know, like lesson to learn in that moment.
Definitely. Yeah. This whole life is a divine symphony, and we are all instruments. And I feel like what you said literally hit the nail on the head, because mushrooms, I feel, are very, very much so connected to spirit. And fungi as a whole, the kingdom of fungi was here before the plants on this earth, before the humans on this earth. And so the eldest kingdom actually helped to create the nutrients that the plants eat. So microbiology, I love this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So fungi itself has a deep resonance with this earth. And I feel that when we have the opportunity to ingest fungi, it literally brings us back into that grounded sensation that we are connected. And the mycelium, the mycelial connection, runs all the way through the earth and brings the nutrients from one plant to another. It's the mycelial network that connects, the big, beautiful peach tree to the little dying piece of wood over here, and it's literally taking the nutrients from the dying piece of wood to feed that beautiful peach tree, so those peaches come out absolutely nectar rich. And so essentially, when we think of taking these types of psychedelics, we're literally tapping back into the intelligence of the earth. And in that space, that's when we really tap into how we can better balance our bodies. So oftentimes when I take mushrooms, which I love to do, I highly recommend taking mushrooms. Yes, you heard it here first. And mushrooms are one of the most incredible healing medicines that bring you into that space of feeling into your body. And when you feel, that's when you really begin to heal. You're like, oh, like, got this little crick in my shoulder, maybe I need to roll this out a little bit. And through that feeling and through that natural intelligence, that's when the vessel becomes clear and those downloads start to come through even more. And so the physical form, they say that this body, it's filled with passageways of energy. And in the yogic lineage, they call them nadis, right? And so you have, your Ida and your Pingala, which are these two different nadis that run up your spine, and they intersect at 7 different layers within your body that are called your 7 chakras. And these 7 chakras are these wheels of energy. And each one of these wheels has a certain resonance and has a certain frequency and has a certain sound. And I actually went into depth with this with my wonderful mathematician teacher, Robert Edward Grant, who I went to Egypt with. And he spoke on literally creating music that can heal and balance the body. That there's frequencies, just like those sound bowls, that helped you to feel your body almost like levitating. That literally happens through the frequency and the vibration of those bowls that are helping to bring your body back into balance. And so all of that helps you to tap into your own spirituality, right? So whether you have the practice of a daily meditation, you have the practice of going to sound healing, you have the practice of, eating these mushrooms, all of those are bringing you back into a deeper awareness of your own spirituality and your own connection to spirit.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it right there. We have we have sound bowls, we have instruments here that we use on our own, just like at home, just because you can feel it. Like if anybody that's listening hasn't been to like a sound healing experience, go. And this is not just like a spiritual, and sound healing experience is not just a spiritual woo-woo Venice thing, Venice, California thing. It's like there are institutions and universities that are exploring sound healing and light as forms of therapy for healing the body, and they're only just discovering how powerful those benefits are. So just because something hasn't been proven or replicated in a clinical study yet doesn't mean that it's unwarranted or that it doesn't work. So try it for yourself. Go to one of these things and see how it feels, because you can walk away with a completely different perspective, a different understanding, a different level of healing and integration of like what it feels like to be whole and complete in your body. Because what you were saying about the energy centers, like your chakras, right? Those do have blockages. So if energy can't flow freely and it becomes stagnant, that is when dis-ease, and that is when physical manifestations of ailment happens. It's like, and a lot of times it becomes emotionally trapped. When emotions aren't able to travel freely or be expressed and processed, that's when we store them and hold on to them. And this is when our body is the one that hangs on to them, and we don't know that they're even there. And doing these different types of modalities allows you to, like taking mushrooms, allows you to really tap into those unprocessed, unexpressed moments in your life where maybe you didn't have the skill set or weren't able to or weren't allowed to express them or process them. So you held on to them.
Yeah.
And you've been carrying them with you for your whole life.
Yeah.
And the load has become so normal that you don't even recognize that you're carrying this baggage of these like load. There's like, imagine like a bag of like a suitcase full of rocks, and you're just carrying it with you everywhere you go. And it's not until like you have the awareness, maybe through the assistance of something like psychedelics that give you a different perspective of your own thoughts, to be like, oh, like I've been carrying this with me, I can let this go.
Yeah.
And that comes up through the process of like feeling it first and then emoting, whether that's crying or laughing or any of those, the wide spectrum of emotions that we have, but you fully release it and allow it to go.
Yeah. And I feel like when you fully release it and allow it to go, you realize that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, not physical beings having a spiritual experience, right? Everything is spirit. So we're spiritual beings, and we realize, whoa, like, wow, like that shoulder impinge has like had my shoulders like this whole time. And then how incredible it feels to open up and to feel that heartfelt awareness. And wow, like now I can actually like breathe. And so oftentimes when people come to my class, oftentimes when, I have the opportunity of working with people on a private, deep one-on-one session, like people have breakthroughs. And those breakthroughs come when they get into a physical position that allows them to feel their spirit open up. And that is when the real breakthroughs happen, is when you're like, not only am I breathing better, but I feel better. My mind is more clear. And the physical form is such a palpable way for us to be able to break through.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not always coming or attacking these, I guess, like these stuck energy in our bodies through the mind, right? It's always like, how can I think about releasing this? Sometimes it's with the assistance of like physical movement, or even like yoga and positioning yourself in certain ways to where it's like you create a clear channel for those energies to be released and to be flown, right? So what's you do acro yoga, which is, for those that are unfamiliar, it's yoga with a partner. Maybe you could be better explain it than I could.
Yeah, definitely.
I know what it's like to feel to do it, but I can't explain it.
So yeah, you can explain how it feels, but essentially acro yoga is partner yoga, where you are able to support another human being in spinal decompression. So it literally enables gravity to do the opposite of what it does on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, we're standing up and the atmospheric gravity is literally pushing us down. So oftentimes, people, even from the time that they're in their height of awareness and they're feeling all good in their, 20s through their maybe 40s, and then, they start to get this hunch, and then gravity takes its toll and we literally go into this crunch. So acro yoga enables us the opportunity to turn that upside down. So now we're allowing gravity to do its work and benefit us in lengthening the spine. So oftentimes when I hold you in a folded leaf, which is my feet at your hip points and then you're folded over, the spine is literally lengthening, and then gravity is doing its work of pulling your spine towards the center of the core, the earth. And I'm doing just simple movements to help your muscles to release so that that gravitational force can do even more in bringing your body back into harmony, back into harmony. Simple. And so we actually call it harmonics. That's what I was going to say, bringing your body back into harmonics. But it's really, I'm just doing harmonics, simple movements to help to bring the muscles to relaxation so that all of the bones can then stack back into alignment.
Yeah, and it's such a powerful practice. And like you said, I feel like there's positions where, you don't have to do anything, but like being put in a position where you're like, your body's allowed to relax for the first time and not support itself, and like need to use the strength to support itself. That might be trapping a emotional memory or something, where it's like when you're finally in this position, you might have a memory come through and you're like, I don't know where that's coming from. But all of a sudden it inspires like maybe even an emotional release as you're being flown by somebody. And it doesn't have to be acro yoga. It could be like any yoga pose or asana, right?
Yeah. And that's the truth, is that, we oftentimes forget, but the tissues hold the issues, and our emotional body is connected to our physical body. And so, we may get cut off on the freeway, or maybe it's a, ex-partner that said something that really hurt our heart. All of those situations, experiences, emotions get held in our tissues. And that's why the practice of yoga is so incredible. That's why the practice of running is so incredible. That's why the practice of, bodybuilding is so incredible. Like, you're taking the time to work through your tissues and hopefully wring out any of those past traumas so that you can be released of that. And it's actually really interesting because in the yogic lineage, they speak of like the tissues are obviously the musculature of the body, and the musculature is covered usually by fat. And so the fat itself is what holds these memories, right? These little karmas. And so through the practice, right, we're constantly burning away those karmas, right? So every single day you practice in the morning and the night so that you have a clean vessel when you move into your subconscious, which then heals the body. And then when you move into your conscious, which then allows you to operate in this world. And the whole practice is tapas, so you have your tapas, your tapasya. It's like your daily practice of purification. You're burning away all of those impurities that are not you, all of those past experiences that are not you, all of those maybe future graspings that are not you, right? Because you is the present moment, and you is the identification of that which is the pure essence of your soul.
I love that. Yeah, this is all convincing to me. I obviously have experienced the benefits of yoga and doing this type of practice, and really like honoring my body in a way that allows me to clear whatever is not serving me, or do my best to. It's always a continuous process. Like, it's never over. It's just continuous, like it's a practice, right? But I feel like in many, and maybe because I live in a bubble, I feel like yoga is becoming more widely accepted and more mainstream. But I feel like in other parts of the country, maybe the flyover states, like yoga is still a very considered kind of like a taboo, or like not really a masculine thing to do. It's mainly for women. I know that it's predominantly like women yoga teachers, right, offering these classes. So what you're describing to me is like, as a guy, who may not have been exposed to yoga, I would be interested in learning about this just for the pure benefits of like how it makes you feel, how it allows you to show up, how it realigns your body, how you can then use all of that to show up in your relationship. You can be more inspired, more motivated, more disciplined. Like there's so many benefits to doing yoga, practicing yoga.
So many benefits of practicing yoga. And I also would like to just say that yoga was first only practiced by men. So coming from India, this practice was actually used to train boys to become men. It was actually used as a means of self-defense initially, but it was kind of like secret because the British had taken over India, and Indians were teaching one another yoga practices as a martial art. And there's actually a whole entire branch of yoga that is known as Kalari, that's a practice with a staff that's like a self-defense practice, but it was very underground, and no one would really speak of it because it was like, if you spoke of it, then perhaps you'd get taken away from the British Army, And so long story short, it has been brought here to the United States mostly by men. There was a few, awesome female teachers out there who, took the teachings of Iyengar and took the teachings of Pattabhi Jois and Krishnamacharya, who are like the grandfathers of yoga, to the United States. And from those who continue to teach it, the way that it was actually transformed into what we practice today, which is mostly asana, which is just one limb of the yoga practice. So really there's 8 limbs to this whole yoga practice, right? So you start off with the yamas, which are like the observances of like things that are, good things to do, like, not stealing and, not harming, ahimsa, right? And then we also have the niyamas, which is like the things that, the observances of things that you don't really need to do. Like you're not really trying to do those things because they're just not good things. And then from there we get into the asana. So we have the yamas and the niyamas, which are just moralistic practices. Like they're just the basically like the 10 commandments of yoga. And then from there we actually get into the bodily practices, which are the asanas, which I call firm seats, right? And those firm seats are opportunities for us to experience that which is the body getting rid of what we don't need so that we can actually attract and magnetize what we do. And so all of those different postures, whether it's a warrior 3, whether it's a handstand, whether it's a seated meditation, they're all called asanas, right? So those asanas bring us to a state where we can experience our breath. That brings us to the next step, which is called pranayama. So, when you're doing your equal part breathing in through the nostrils, right? All different types of pranayamas are out there to experience different effects. There's even one that you literally exhale through one nostril, inhale through one nostril to help to balance the hemispheres of your brain. So all these different pranayamas bring us to the next phase, which was pratyahara, which is relieving ourselves from our senses, right? And then we get from that our state of concentration, which is dhyana. And then that brings us to dharana, which is deep meditation. And then that brings us to samadhi, which is the effervescence of being connected to that which is beyond words, that which is ineffable, the pure essence of source. And so this whole practice of yoga is literally to just get us to that point where we are connected to spirit.
Wow. It's like a whole class on yoga. I feel like, so how do you integrate all of those 8 limbs of yoga? I mean, I guess that is the practice of it, right? Is integration is like the actual practice of it, and exist in this modern world.
That's a great question. I feel the best means to practice is to realize that everything is a practice of spirituality. Whether, you're waking up and you're brushing your teeth, how can you do it with the most compassion for your gums, for your teeth, for your mouth, while at the same time, making sure that you're not taking 30 minutes, letting the water just drain down this. It's like observing the mindfulness while at the same time being aware of the spiritual practice of how you treat your body, how you treat others, and how you're operating in this world. So the real integration is a daily practice. It's, taking the time to do your meditation, but still being on time for your meetings. Taking the time to, go to your yoga practice while at the same time, still being honorable with the way that you treat your mother. It's like all of those things are opportunities for meditation. All of, like, whether you're sitting in traffic on the 405 and, someone cuts you off and, they're, it's saying, I'm not going to let that external affect my internal. It's all energy. It's all energy. And so when we truly learn how to utilize our energy more effectively and efficiently, then an instrument, right? Just like an instrument, we can be well tuned and we can just come to any situation ready to play.
Yeah, and use that to create it, or literally create businesses, like, and take that same framework of operating and being into our business practices, right? Because especially if you're an entrepreneur, like, your business is an extension of you.
Definitely.
Like, that's a fact. So if there's, like, entrepreneurship can be a place for discovering what areas about yourself need to be developed, whether that is interpersonal relationships, whether it's the relationship with yourself, of not burning yourself out, like, how can you effectively delegate work, and how can you have ethical business practices that might not be as economical as cutting corners, but staying true to your values and your integrity to doing things the way that you believe is the right way.
Yeah.
Right. And, like, you've obviously seen success, and it's hard to encapsulate what you do because you do so many things. It's like me, I do a lot of things. It's really hard to tell people, like, what I do exactly.
Multifaceted beings.
Yeah. But the thread through all of what we do is through the lens of, like, compassion, being of service, having integrity, and maintaining our moral values with everything that we do. And I would love to hear, like, how that's led to your success, because you are a successful person. I mean, materialistically, yes, but I'd love to hear your definition of success and how your spiritual practice has contributed to that.
I would say that, first off, that's a great question. So thank you for presenting that. I feel that my definition of success is the true alignment with your heartfelt intention to realize that you can manifest anything in this dimension.
I love that.
Because it's your heart that really brings forth the resonance of that which is your concept of success. Like, your success is different than my success, is different than, Elon Musk's success is different than Mariah Carey's success. Like, everyone's vision of success is different, and that's the beauty of everyone's essence. And your heart is this 7-chambered beautiful muscle that is literally taking the breath of life, the prana. It's inhaling, and then it's literally transmuting all of the little molecules and imbibing each of your cells with oxygen. And that oxygen is then invigorated to create everything from your DNA, which is that intrinsic connection of your mother and your father coming to unify as one into your being. And you get to, through epigenetics, create your reality. What you see, what you believe, what you have faith in, all becomes that which is your manifest reality. And so as we continue to tap deeper into our own awareness of that, right, as we continue to imbibe each and every moment with our heart's felt intention, like, literally a vibration from your heart is emanating out every single second. And so we're consciously changing that which is our atmosphere, that which is our environment, that which is our reality. And so,
yeah, and it's felt, right? It's like somebody's vibration is felt. Like, it's such a, like, you can't really quantify it, at least. Maybe you can, but I feel like we have this innate ability to sense vibrations. You can walk into a room and feel the energy of a room and be like, I don't want to be here. I feel unsafe, and it doesn't resonate with my vibration right now.
Yeah.
Like maybe somebody's in a bad mood and they're angry and upset. You're like, I can tell that they're on a different vibration than me when I'm feeling calm and peaceful.
Collected.
Yeah, right? So it's like, I love the way you described like your successes, because like once you realize that you can create anything and you can manifest the life that you want, like the possibilities are endless.
Seriously.
They're infinite. Like it's just endless possibilities of what your life could be. And it's all a reflection of what's happening internally.
Yeah.
Right? Is like it reflects your internal state. This is why, for anybody that's listening, if you ever have been having one of those days where it started off bad and you're focusing on all the things that are going wrong, and then you get into a fender bender and like it's another thing that goes wrong, and then they cancel your appointment, it's another thing that goes wrong. It's because you're focusing on all the things that are going wrong, and that's a reflection of your internal state, as opposed to finding alignment with your authentic self, which knows that everything's always going to be good.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. You are where you are. These circumstances and situations are just teaching you to reconnect deeper with your essence, which is like peace and tranquility and love and compassion. Then you can use those opportunities in a moment to like reflect on all the great things that are happening in your life, and then like reframe it, and then like that can ultimately lead to success. But you have to reconnect with your essence, right? And you can do that through these practices.
And when you take a deep breath in those moments of challenge, that's when you tune back in. And when you tune back in, that's when you're able to play. You know? So like life is a divine dance. They call it Leela. Like this is like literally the most beautiful place that you could possibly be right here, right now. So if you take this moment and you realize that this beauty can be observed in every moment, then you see the beauty in the fender bender that may help you to meet this person who leads you to your lover. You know, when you're like, I don't even know how this happened, but you know, this was meant to happen, or that fender bender actually, you know, made it so that you went to the insurance company and the insurance company, you know, tells you that, oh, actually, like we're going to give you a better rate than, you know, like there's so many different things. We can't explain it. You know, life cannot be explained in the little tiny, what I would call serendipity of the moment. But the beauty of it can be seen when we take a deep breath and realize that we're meant to breathe through this challenge, that this too is part of the whole story.
I love that. Yeah, that perspective of seeing life as like this tapestry, and each moment is just a thread in this tapestry, and you can't really see the big picture. Like just using this fender bender as an example, like in the moment it can seem like such a terrible thing, and it's like, why is this happening to me? But then, like you said, it could lead to some very beautiful moment in the near distant future that couldn't have happened unless the fender bender happened. So in retrospect, you can look back at that unpleasant experience and find deep gratitude for that, because without it you wouldn't be experiencing the joy and the happiness and the bliss that you're currently experiencing, which is like such a you can extrapolate that to your life, and any moment in your life. It's like, yeah, it was challenging, but I wouldn't know the good, all the beauty in my life if I didn't know the hardship and the struggle in my life. So I appreciate it. As much as it was hard for me to experience, I really appreciate that happening to me, because ultimately I chose it once again. Like, again, coming back to that perspective of I chose everything.
Yeah.
And you can take that into your daily like perspective too, that like if you believe that everything has meaning, which I do, you can obviously look at life both ways, either as nothing has nothing has any meaning, or everything has meaning to it. I choose to see the meaning in everything, because it makes life that much more beautiful, and for me, and I can find meaning in every single conversation, every single connection that I have with people, because I see it as this moment is leading, it's purposeful and it has a meaning behind it, whether it's just a conversation, whether it is like a perspective change that somebody offers me from talking to them, and it just contributes to this beautiful tapestry that is my life. So regardless of whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, I'm grateful for it, the fact that it's happening.
And I was going to say that, I mean, I feel that your essence of gratitude is expressed in every situation. And that's a lot of the reasons why I really appreciate being around you. And from the time that we met to, like, you know, leading retreats in Bali to even your birthday the other day, just how grateful you were for everyone who was there. Like, I think that essence is literally like, it's what I know you as, is like just this grateful being. And I feel so strongly that, like, when we have that reverence for life, when we begin to bring that in, like, that's the resonance that I feel from you, is that gratitude. And that's why I'm always like so stoked to just, like, you know, hang out, vibe, kick it, relax, do acro yoga, because it's just like, just feeling how you express gratitude, it feels good. It feels so good. And I feel that, you know, when we choose to be around people, like, we should really be mindful as to how those people make us feel, because that is part of how we choose to imbibe the world that we're around, and how we're uplifted by the people that we're around, so that we can continue to share our gifts.
Thank you, man. I received that. I appreciate you saying that too.
Yeah, I
man.
mean it seriously. Like, when you're speaking on, like, you know, when you step into a room, I was like, literally, like, every time that I step into a space with you, I'm just like, oh, like, such good energy, such heartfelt energy.
I appreciate that.
Definitely.
Yeah, it just comes from what I was just talking about, like, really appreciating everybody that I come in contact with, even if I don't even resonate with them. Like, the fact that I'm having an interaction with a person on this planet where there's 8 billion of us, like, the likelihood of me running into somebody is pretty small.
Seriously.
So the fact that I'm having a conversation with somebody and that we have something in common is something to be grateful for, you know? So yeah, it's a pretty wonderful thing to be alive. So
it is. We're living in a beautiful world. And I feel that that's really the key, is like seeing the beauty in every moment. And that's the real simplicity of spirituality.
Well, mic drop. All right, Andrew, dude, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your joy and your intelligence on this show. I hope that for everybody watching, that you got something out of this podcast, even if it was just entertainment. If you want to connect deeper with Andrew, you can find him on Instagram at Andrew7Sealy.
Yep,
he also,
my website.
Yeah, he also hosts yoga teacher trainings all over the world. Do you have one coming up?
Yeah, I have one coming up in September. And then we have another one coming up in the new year as well. So you can check that out all on my website, Andrew7Sealy.com. And yeah, man, it's such a blessing to be here and an honor. I truly appreciate you for all the wisdom that you share and the great questions that you ask and the support that you give to this community. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you, brother. All right. As always, I appreciate you watching this episode. If you feel inspired to leave a comment, leave a review, share it with a friend, I would deeply appreciate it. A lot of time and energy goes into this show in hopes of being of service to the world and hopefully making somebody else's day a little bit better. So as always, I'm sending you all lots of love and light. And until next time.
Blessing, shine bright.